Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
I struggle with the first agreement almost on a daily basis because it's not as easy as it seems. For me, being impeccable with my word is very much around being very deliberate and thoughtful about anything that I speak, anything that I write, even in my journal.
To be impeccable with your word, you have to have a keen sense of what you want to say. So a keen sense of intent, what do I want to say, and then action to use my intent to back that up with my words. So it's first to understand what do I want to say, and then how do I want to say it.
I love the fact that the impeccability is about me. And if I intend well, that things will be well.
So let's talk about the first agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Being impeccable with your word is the correct use of your energy. It means to use your energy in the direction of truth and love for yourself. If you make an agreement with yourself to be impeccable with your word, just with that intention alone, the truth will manifest through you and clean all the emotional poison that exists within you. If you just did that one,
it's enough to
everything would change.
Yes, it's enough to live your life in heaven, we can say in that way.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this morning. And because I knew I was going to be talking to you, it was one of the reasons I was late and the whole day is because I had said to myself, I'm going to work out 30 minutes. Then I got on the treadmill and I realized, well, maybe I won't make it 30. And this is what I know, and I know many of you have done this too, who are listening to us in different places in the world. You are far more impeccable. I find this for myself. I'm far more impeccable when it comes to other people than I am to myself. If I tell somebody I'm going to do something for them, I show up, I do it no matter what. If I tell myself, oh, I'm going to work out, I'm not going to eat that thing, I'm not going to do that anymore, I am not as impeccable with myself. And that's why this is such a powerful one, because if you are impeccable with yourself, everything changes.
Yes, we can say that whatever we want to change, first we need to start with ourselves.
Yep.
We cannot give what we don't have.
No, we cannot. So is that the most important one of the four, do you think?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Being impeccable with your word.
Yes, because that represents you. To be impeccable with the word is even much more than just do what you say you will do.
It's more than that.
Much more than that.
Yes.
You just change yourself, and just like magic, everything starts changing around you.
Yeah.
Good morning. We are so blessed to be in this place this morning. If you haven't already considered that, allow me to issue that reminder to you. It's a blessing to be here because Unity on the Bay for almost 90 years right now has been one of the premier locations in South Florida for bringing some of the greatest voices of spiritual liberation that are on the planet to express. And we did that last night in this place. If you were here for Panache, you realize, wow, what a wonderful message and so brilliantly delivered. It's going to happen again at the beginning of May, when on May 6th, that Friday evening, we welcome Don Miguel Ruiz Sr. and his son, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., who actually was with us not that long ago. So, and of course, Don Miguel Ruiz Sr. is the author of this amazing book called The Four Agreements. And in that book, in just a few pages, he discusses 4 agreements that you can make with yourself. Now, the reality is this, my friends, at least from my perspective, you're always making agreements with yourself. You've been making agreements for as long as you've been walking on the planet, talking on the planet. Agreements are when you hear something being delivered to you, a thought or a belief or an idea, and you agree with it. That is, you decide to incorporate it into your own consciousness and live your life out of it. So we all have made countless different agreements. What Don Miguel Ruiz does is he tries to help us realize the most powerful of the agreements that we have made so that we can become aware to support them and endorse them through our life, through our words, through our actions, through everything that we are. Don Miguel Ruiz opens this book in a very interesting way. And I know that what I'm about to share with you is not something you're going to have heard for the first time in this room this morning, but I really want you to just think about it because it's very powerful. According to the Toltec wisdom, which both Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. and Sr. speak from, everything in your experience right now is but a dream. How many of you thought you woke up when you got out of bed this morning? Tain't so. We're all asleep. This is a dream. And it's a dream that we have constructed out of the agreements that we have made with life. Don Miguel Ruiz says, what you are seeing and hearing right now is nothing but a dream. You're dreaming right now in this very moment. You're dreaming with your brain awake. How strange is that? I know in metaphysics, mysticism, we talk about the fact that this is a dream, this is an illusion, this is not ultimate reality. But because we've all grown up in it and been hanging around in it for so many years, it's really kind of a shocking revelation. Go deep with this. You're dreaming. And I right now am a character in your dream. I'm not actually up here at all. So you have made me up in your dream. And you have made everybody and everything up in your dream. You have a personal dream that you live every day. Now, you created me in your dream so that I could tell you something really important this morning. Wake up! Wake up from this dream. If you can wake up from this dream, what you're going to discover is that all of the suffering and the hardship and the difficulty and the challenge that you've had are because of this dream that you're experiencing because of what you have said yes to, because of what you have chosen to infuse with your belief and your ideas and your convictions. Now, this doesn't just happen on the singular level with you and me. It's not just a personal dream you're having. According to Toltec wisdom, Don Miguel Ruiz and his son, there's a planetary dream going on here. And you and I were born into the planetary dream. The planetary dream, hear me on this, is not your fault. And it's not your responsibility. If you can deal with your personal dream, which from personal experience I wish to testify is sufficient work for a lifetime. If you can begin to wake up from your own personal dream, you'll begin then to contribute to the awakening forces that are on the planet right now, that are helping all of humanity to awaken from the collective or planetary dream. Now, how this dream comes to pass is very interesting. And if you've been around Unity on the Bay very long at all, you've heard me say this countless times, but I'm saying it again this morning because I really, if you don't know this, I'm a real devotee of this book. Not because I think that Don Miguel Ruiz is like spiritually illumined above us all, but simply because it puts forth spiritual reality in very practical language that is easy to understand in a very few pages. And if you're like me, I've got so many books to read, I don't have time to read a dozen Bibles every day. This puts it into a succinct form that I can understand through these 4 agreements. And what it says is that there's this thing that goes on, you see. You're born into this planetary dream, and in order for you to support the planetary dream, you have to conform according to its wishes. So you are immediately, from the moment you arrive on the planet, you're born into a process that is referred to as human domestication. That's the term that you've heard me use before. You have to be domesticated. And you're domesticated by being rewarded and punished for your behaviors. If you conform to the construct of what is required for domestication, you are rewarded. And of course, that feels really good. If you don't conform, you're punished. And of course, that doesn't feel good. This results in all of us, my friends, living lives where if we're really honest with ourselves, we have to say that we're out in the world constantly trying to avoid rejection and punishment and constantly seeking approval and reward. It happens when we're little kids. Mom and dad say, well done, we feel great. Mom and dad say, oh, you're a bad boy, you're a bad girl, look at what you did. We feel horrible. And because we like to feel great, we end up growing into an experience where after a while, we don't have to be domesticated anymore. We become what Don Miguel Ruiz refers to as, and this I cringe to say, auto-domesticated animals. We no longer look to people outside of us to domesticate us. We've been so well domesticated that we become self-domesticated. We have within us both a judge and a victim. And the criteria is set in our minds, you see. This is what I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to live up to. And of course, what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to live up to is never anything like what we are. Thus, we are in a continual situation where the interior judge, we don't need a mom and dad or an authority figure out here anymore to reward or punish us. We do it to ourselves. We have this judge, and it says, well, that behavior was not up to significant standard according to what's been established. By what? Don't know. By our agreements. Whether they're right or wrong, good or bad, we've made these agreements. When we live up to them, we reward ourselves, you see. We don't need anybody else to do that for us now. And we punish ourselves. The only thing is there's a strong tendency to punish ourselves more than we reward ourselves. Have you noticed this? Oh, how could you have done that again? You know, you're so stupid. Didn't you get it last time? I can't believe it. When are we going to get out of this? So there's judgment, and there's victimization, and there's reward and punishment, and we don't need any cast of characters outside of us anymore to make those calls. We're making them on ourselves. We have become auto-domesticated. So the question becomes then, how do we get free of this? First of all, we have to understand one very important fact. And I'm giving you a lot of startling information this morning. I'm sorry it's early. But you know what? You wouldn't be in this room if you weren't up to this. And here it is. According to Don Miguel Ruiz, 95% of the beliefs we have stored in our minds are nothing but lies. And we suffer because we believe these lies. You see, we were conditioned, we were domesticated, and we went along with the game, right? But I'm telling you, the vast majority of what this morning in this room you absolutely believe is true is not. So you and I have to wake up and start questioning what we're believing and ask ourselves whether it's ultimately true or not. We've got to liberate ourselves from auto-domestication. And that's where the first agreement comes in. Now, next week you'll hear Elizabeth talk about the second agreement. The week after that, you'll hear Juan talk about the third agreement, and then I'll be back up here on the fourth Sunday telling you about the fourth agreement. But this morning, we're going to focus on the first agreement because you heard Don Miguel Ruiz tell us, like the unity teachings, like the unity principles, if you get the first one, you're home free, okay? First unity principle is there's only one presence, there's only one power, God the good. If you get that, you're done. The others are just icing on the cake, add-ons. The same is true with these agreements. Here's the first agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Now, most of us consider our word to be our promises, right? And even Oprah, I thought it was very interesting. She's read the book, and she thought that your word was about being true to your promises, your commitments in life. Well, I'm not saying that it isn't. It's important to be true to our word, to show up for our word in terms of the promises and commitments that we make. But I believe that what Don Miguel Ruiz is talking about here is something much, much bigger than whether or not you always do what you say you're going to do. I think it's much bigger than that. I think it has to do with starting to recognize the power of your words. and the importance of ensuring that what you say is actually in alignment with spiritual reality, okay? And not some lie of the 95% of the beliefs or thoughts that you're holding. This means we have to become extremely aware of what we are telling ourselves and other people all the time. Because, you see, in unity, we're always telling you to become aware of your thoughts, right? Why? Because your thoughts become your experience of reality. Well, sometimes, I don't know if this has been the case for you, but sometimes it's hard to always keep track of what I'm thinking. This thought, because so many thoughts. But you see, the moment you take a thought and you start to express it verbally into words, it's much easier to see it because you spoke it. The other thing is that the moment it goes from a thought into something that you speak, it is empowered. If you were in the room last night with Panache, you heard him talking about vibrational frequency. The moment that you take a thought and you express it verbally, you're putting a vibrational frequency behind it. It's your voice creates a vibration. That's what your voice is. It's a vibration. That's what my voice is. So it's real important to recognize in unity we talk about the power of the spoken word. The moment a thought goes from a thought that you're thinking, which is one thing, that's verbal too. It's going on inside of you. So you have to be mindful of that, but especially mindful that the moment you start speaking it, you're sending forth a vibration. And my dear friends, that vibration comes right back to you. Now or later, it comes right back to you because that's the nature of vibration. What you send out comes back. So it becomes very important for us to watch our words. And I am preaching to myself this morning. And after having prepared this message this morning, it's making me, that's why it's so important to come together. It's not like you ever hear anything in this room that you haven't heard before, but you need to hear it again. I need to hear it again. I need to become more accountable to myself about what it is that I'm saying all the time. And especially when we get into those, and I know nobody in this room has ever had this experience, where we're just talking about her, or we're talking about him, and we're just talking about what a lousy so-and-so, and how could they do this, and how could they... You see, what you're doing there is you're sending out, it's actually like a poison. When you get into that, when you get into gossip, when you get into talking negatively about people, you're sending out like a poison in your energy. Become aware of that. And please join me. I'm right there with you. Let's this week, or even let's just try today, being very careful about what we're saying and asking ourselves whether or not it's in alignment with spiritual truth. What is the spiritual truth? You're a child of God. So is everyone else on this planet. The reason it doesn't look that way is because you have chosen to make agreements with identities that are not true about yourself and other people. The only way to get out of that is to start thinking and speaking from a space of spiritual truth. Don Miguel Ruiz puts it this way. The word is not just a sound or a written symbol. The word is a force. It is the power you have to express and communicate, to think, and thereby to create the events in your life according to your words. It is done unto you. That's the power that you have. Your words that you speak, the words I speak, they are decrees. They are commands. And according to what we speak, we are creating our experience of reality. If you don't like what you're experiencing, watch your words. Don Miguel Ruiz goes on to say, the word impeccable comes from the Latin word peccatus, which means sin. The im in impeccable means without. So impeccable means without sin. A sin is anything you do which goes against yourself. So those of you that came to Unity because you wanted to stop being called a hell-bound sinner, this morning you may not return. Because I'm telling you, we are all hell-bound sinners. You've never heard me say that before, right? Now let me tell you why I believe that's true. I believe it is true because the words that we are speaking are so often sinful in nature. That is, they are not in alignment with the spiritual reality of who we are. And when we do that, it's like, as Miguel Ruiz would say, it's like casting a spell. Is it true? No. But what happens when you run around all the time speaking things that are not in accord with spiritual reality? You are in hell. Yeah, so this isn't being imposed upon us, you see, by somebody or something, or by God or by Satan. We are doing this to ourselves because I'll tell you something about the dream that I spoke of earlier. It is insane. The dream we are dreaming that is based on falsehood is insane. And it teaches us to punish ourselves over and over again until we reach the point where we say, there's got to be something more than this. There just has to be something more than this. Because this is a vicious cycle. So when you reach that point, then I can say to you, in opposition to my earlier statement, you're not a sinner and you're not hell-bound because you're not speaking against yourself. And you're not speaking against other people. No matter what the illusion or the dream of time and space tells you about yourself or other people, you say to yourself, hey, I know the spiritual reality of who I am. So my request, my assignment, my invitation, my opportunity that I'm extending to you this morning is to become completely vigilant as to what you are telling yourself all the time and what you're saying. Don't be a hell-bound sinner, Unity on the Bay. You're worth a lot more than that. So much more. If there's a sin in this dream state, it's the reality that we are created in the image and likeness of God, but we don't believe it. We choose to believe in all these ridiculous, insane thoughts and ideas about ourselves and then punish ourselves because we're not meeting up to a standard that simply does not exist. It's built on 95% lies. Do you hear me on this? So if you want to be free, if you want to live your life from a place of peace, if you want to have abundance, if you want to have more love and harmony in your relationships, especially your relationship with yourself, then stop telling yourself lies. Stop sinning on yourself. And stop seeing yourself as hell-bound in nature because that is ridiculous. That is in the pile of 95% lies. The spiritual reality of who you are, I'm going to tell you right now, is that you are brilliant. You're brilliant. Have you been selling yourself short on that? Wake up. You're brilliant. You're also, this is really good news, you're beautiful and you're gracious and you're charming. How easy it is to take all of these innate qualities that every one of us is and see them in everybody else except ourselves. You are beautiful, you're charming, you're eloquent, you're astounding. Oh my God. And when you get in those places where you don't believe that of yourself, wake up. You stop in your tracks and you say, I am speaking lies about myself. I am sinning here. I am making statements that are not in accord with the spiritual reality from which I am made. I want to be free from those lies. Don't you? Because we could be walking down Biscayne Boulevard, kicking our heels up every single day going, whoopee! People will think we're absolutely crazy, but we know the reality is we finally got sane, right? We finally decided to believe in a different version of ourselves. See, according to your belief, according to your word, it is done unto you. So if you want to be free this morning, just join me. Let's walk around everywhere we go this week, watching our words and holding ourselves accountable. Not because of some promise we made to somebody else or even to ourselves, just because we want to wake up, just because we want to be free, just because it's time to start living this life in a different way. God bless you. I love you, and I do see the spiritual reality of who you are. All righty, Jason's going to join me up here because we have something to tell you. In addition,
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.